The desert did not sleep that night. The dunes whispered with a dry wind, carrying the scent of war and smoke. Far away, the ground shook like a drumbeat. Something colossal was moving beneath the sands. Soldiers gripped their rifles tighter, eyes darting toward the horizon. Even the tanks stationed near the dunes rattled, as if fearing what approached. Then it came. A serpent titan erupted from the ground, a nightmare given flesh. Its body was a mountain of black scales, each one gleaming like obsidian blades under the starlight. Its eyes were burning green suns, unblinking, filled with hunger and hatred. The desert itself seemed to bow under its weight. Some soldiers froze. Others cursed under their breath. A few whispered prayers. But one man moved forward. He was Kale of Egypt, a warrior who seemed carved from the very stone of the pyramids. His body was colossal, each muscle cut like it had been sculpted by the gods themselves. His skin was bronzed from years under the unforgiving Egyptian sun, but his eyes were sharp, alive with fire. Kale wore a warrior's uniform unlike any other. It carried echoes of the pharaohs, golden armor etched with ancient hieroglyphs, a chest plate shaped like the falcon of Horus, a cape that fluttered like desert flame. But it was no relic. This was armor reforged with futuristic nanotech plating, glowing faintly with energy, built for a new kind of war. On his arm, a gauntlet pulsed with power, a living weapon fused with technology older than the stars. And in his hands, Kale carried a spear, half ancient, half future. Its shaft was wrapped in carved symbols that glowed as though written by the gods themselves, while its blade was a humming arc of plasma, capable of cutting steel like paper. He looked up at the Titan, a serpent so massive its coils could crush entire battalions. Behind him, a soldier muttered in fear, "God help us. That thing could swallow a tank whole." Another whispered back, voice shaking, "No, he is our help. He is Egypt's son." Kale planted the butt of his spear into the sand. Sparks crackled from its blade as the wind howled around him. He was not just a soldier tonight. He was something greater. He was the living defiance of humanity. The Titan hissed, the sound rolling like thunder across the desert. A hiss so loud it cracked the air. It bared fangs longer than men, dripping venom that turned sand into glass where it fell. Kale stepped forward, unfazed. His voice carried across the ranks, across the dunes, across the night itself. Titans bleed, and tonight this desert drinks your blood. The soldiers behind him went silent. For the first time, they felt it, hope. Kale raised his spear. The stars above flickered as if watching. The Titan coiled, muscles rippling like a living storm. The desert itself seemed to hold its breath. And in that frozen heartbeat, humanity's answer to the serpent of the sands stood unshaken. The war between man and monster was about to begin. The ground trembled like an earthquake. The serpent titan reared high, its massive body blotting out the stars. Its scales shimmered with a sickening green glow, venom pulsing beneath its skin like rivers of fire. When it opened its mouth, the heat of its breath scorched the sand, turning dunes into molten glass. The soldiers fell back instinctively. Tanks reversed, their treads grinding the earth, while artillery crews scrambled to re-aim their cannons. But every man knew the truth. None of it would matter. A monster this size was beyond conventional war. Only Kale did not retreat. He tightened his grip on the plasma spear, his golden armor gleaming under the starlight. His chest rose with slow, measured breaths, like a man preparing for judgment. The desert wind whipped through his cape, carrying the scent of dust, blood, and fate. Then the Titan struck. Its head lunged down like a falling mountain. Its fangs gleamed with venom that could kill 100 men with a single drop. Soldiers screamed. The sand exploded upward in a violent storm. But Kale moved. With inhuman speed, his body twisted sideways, muscles rippling, the plasma spear blazing with light. He thrust upward, driving the weapon into the side of the Titan's jaw. High voltage, impact. The desert lit up as plasma met flesh. The Titan howled, a sound so loud that the dunes themselves seemed to shatter. Its massive body recoiled, blood thick, black, and glowing, splattering onto the sand. The very ground hissed as the ichor ate through stone and steel alike. Kale didn't stop. He spun the spear, driving another strike deep into the Titan's scaled hide. Sparks and blood erupted together, the sound of steel against god flesh echoing like thunder. Each blow carried the weight of his ancestors, the pharaohs, the warriors, the slaves who had built empires under the sun. This was not just Kale's fight. It was Egypt's vengeance, humanity's vengeance. The Titan roared in fury, whipping its massive tail through the battlefield. Collision, a tank was smashed like a toy, sent flying into the dunes. Soldiers were flung into the air, their screams torn away by the wind. The serpent's body crashed against the ground, creating a sandstorm so fierce that the horizon vanished. But through the storm, one silhouette stood unshaken. Kale. His armor glowed with cracks of light, the hieroglyphs etched upon it flaring as though the ancient gods themselves had awakened. Each breath came heavy, but his eyes never faltered. He raised his spear once more, pointing it directly at the Titan. "Come," he roared, his voice carrying like thunder. "Come and face the last son of Egypt." The Titan's eyes narrowed, venom dripping like rain. With a violent hiss, it lunged again, coils slamming into the sand with earth-shaking force. And so it began, the duel of the desert. Man versus monster. Flesh against scale. History against extinction. The desert would not forget this night. The serpent roared, and the desert shook like the bones of the earth were cracking apart. Its tail lashed out with monstrous speed. Kale tried to dodge, but the sheer size of the beast made escape impossible. The impact struck him like a thunderbolt. His body was hurled across the sand, crashing into a dune with an explosion of dust. For a moment, the battlefield froze. The soldiers gasped. The Titan raised its head high, venom dripping from its fangs and rivers, hissing as it melted through stone, steel, even the wreckage of a tank. The air filled with the choking stench of acid. Kale lay half buried in the dune, his armor cracked, his spear flickering weakly. His chest heaved with ragged breaths. For the first time, doubt clawed at him. The Titan's shadow loomed over him, vast and merciless. Its eyes glowed a sickly green, like twin suns of poison. With a guttural hiss, it opened its jaws wide, ready to end him in one strike. But then voices. The comms channel crackled. Soldiers' desperate shouts filled his helmet. "Kale, don't stop. You're the only one holding it back. If you fall, we all fall." Their words burned through him like fire. In that moment, he wasn't just Kale, the bodybuilder warrior from Cairo. He was every soldier standing on that sand, every child sleeping in a vulnerable city, every ancestor carved into the walls of the pyramids. He forced himself to his feet. Blood streamed down his face. His armor glowed faintly with the power of the ancient inscriptions, as though the gods themselves whispered into his bones. "Stand. Fight. Endure." The Titan lunged. This time, Kale did not dodge. He charged. With a roar that shook the desert, he thrust his plasma spear directly into the serpent's mouth. Sparks and blood erupted like fireworks. The monster screamed, its jaws thrashing wildly, but Kale held on, driving the spear deeper, until the light of the weapon burned against the roof of its mouth. But victory came at a cost. Venom sprayed from the Titan's wounds, splattering across Kale's chest and arm. His armor hissed as the poison ate through the plating. Pain tore through him, white-hot and searing. His muscles screamed. His vision blurred. Still, he refused to let go. "I am not just one man," he growled, his voice raw with fury. "I am all of us." With one final push, he drove the spear through the Titan's jaw, pinning its head to the sand for a brief, glorious moment. The desert thundered with the clash of gods. The desert fell silent. Kale's spear still pinned the serpent's head into the sand, its massive jaws twitching, venom dripping in rivers. Soldiers on the dunes erupted in cheers, their voices cracking with hope. He did it. The Titan is down. Kale killed it. But Kale didn't move. His breathing was shallow, his armor burned with venom, and his body trembled on the edge of collapse. Even through the haze of pain, Something gnawed at his instincts. The silence was wrong. Then he heard it. A low, bone-deep rumble. The sand shifted under his feet like a living ocean. The serpent's body convulsed violently, its scales glowing faintly with a sick green fire. The pinned head twitched and then split. From the titan's flesh, new heads erupted. 1, 2, 3. Snapping, hissing, shrieking, like demons clawing their way out of the underworld. Each head twisted in rage, venom foaming from their fangs. The serpent wasn't dead. It was evolving. The soldiers' cheers turned into screams. What is this? It's splitting. There's more of them. Fall back. Fall back. The new heads lashed out, striking tanks like toys, tearing apart entire squads in seconds. Fire and blood painted the desert. Kale staggered back, his spear nearly drained of power. For the first time, he wasn't just fighting a titan. He was fighting something that defied reason. Something that wanted not just victory, but extinction. One of the new heads lunged straight at him. Its fangs scraped across his shoulder, ripping away armor, leaving flesh exposed. Kale roared in agony, barely managing to thrust his shield up in time. The blow sent him tumbling across the sands. Dust filled his lungs. His vision swam. Through the chaos, his mind flashed with images. His mother's voice, the streets of Cairo, the Nile flowing under a golden sun. The people he had sworn to protect. The ancestors who had stood in deserts long before him. He planted his spear in the sand and pulled himself up. Bloodied, broken, barely standing, but still standing. I don't care if you have 1 head, 3, or 100, his voice was raw, but steady. You'll never erase us. The titan screeched, all its heads twisting toward him, glowing with venomous rage. Kale tightened his grip on the spear. The desert around him burned. Soldiers scattered. The sky itself seemed to darken. The real battle was only beginning. The desert was no longer a battlefield. It was an apocalypse. Multiple titan heads thrashed across the sands, each one tearing through tanks, swallowing men whole, spraying venom that melted steel like wax. Egyptian warriors, once roaring with pride, were now scattered shadows across the dunes. But one figure still stood tall. Kale. His body was broken, blood soaking into the golden sand. His shield was cracked in half. His spear's glow flickered like a dying star. Every muscle in him screamed to fall, to give in. But he refused. His eyes locked onto the titan's central head, the true brain pulsing beneath its armored crown. If that could be destroyed, maybe, just maybe, the beast could be killed for real. The titan roared, a sound so loud the dunes collapsed like waves. All of its heads turned toward Kale, sensing that he was the only threat left. Soldiers screamed his name as they fled. Kale, no. You'll die. But Kale didn't hear them. He only heard the pounding of his own heart, the echo of his ancestors whispering through the wind. Stand. Fight. Do not let them erase you. The serpent lunged, all heads striking at once. Kale ran, straight into the storm of fangs. His armor shattered under their strikes, venom scorched his flesh, but he kept moving. Step after step, closer to the titan's core. With his last breath, he hurled his broken shield into the nearest head's eye. It shrieked, pulling back in pain. He used the moment to leap, his spear glowing brighter than ever before, feeding on his will, his rage, his love for his people. For a heartbeat, time froze. He was no longer just Kale. He was every Egyptian who had ever fought, every human who had ever refused to kneel. He drove the spear down, straight into the titan's skull. The desert exploded in light. The serpent shrieked, venom bursting into flames, its heads thrashing wildly. Kale was swallowed in the blast, his body disappearing in fire and sand. Soldiers shielded their eyes as the dunes shook like an earthquake. When the dust cleared, the serpent was still moving, wounded, burning, but not dead. Kale was nowhere to be seen. The soldiers stared in horror, whispers breaking the silence. Is he gone? No, not Kale. The titan lifted its burning heads, shrieking with rage, ready for the final strike. But then, from the flames, a shadow began to rise. The desert was fire. The sky was crimson. And the titan serpent refused to die. Its monstrous body, the size of a mountain, burned with Kale's last attack. But still it moved, still it hunted, still it screamed with an unholy rage that shook the bones of every living thing. Soldiers fell to their knees in despair. The battle seemed lost. The dunes were painted with ash and blood. The titan's venom hissed like rivers of acid carving scars into the earth. And then, from the inferno, a figure emerged. Kale. Half his armor was gone. His skin glowed with molten cracks of light, as if fire itself had carved him into a living weapon. His eyes burned with an unnatural intensity, both human and something more. The soldiers gasped. Some cried his name, others crossed their arms over their chests in reverence. Kale did not answer them. His eyes were locked on the titan. This was no longer just war. This was judgment. The serpent struck, all heads lunging in perfect unison, faster than arrows, sharper than blades. But Kale did not flinch. He leapt, higher than any man should, landing atop the titan's massive coils. Each step he took across its burning scales left footprints of fire behind. The titan roared, twisting, trying to shake him off. Sandstorms rose with its fury. But Kale climbed, and climbed, straight toward the brain pulsing beneath the armored crown of its central head. His broken spear was gone. His cracked shield was gone. All he had left was himself. He raised his fists, glowing with molten fire, and drove them down into the titan's skull. Once, twice, again and again, until bone cracked, until blood like black tar poured across the sands. The serpent screamed, the earth trembling with its agony. But still it would not fall. Kale roared back, a sound as ancient as the Nile, as eternal as the pyramids. This is for humanity. With one final strike, he plunged his burning arm straight into the serpent's brain. The desert lit up like the birth of a sun. The titan convulsed, its massive heads writhing, then collapsing one by one into the sands. Its colossal body shattered dunes into mountains, then lay still, smoke rising from its ruined skull. Silence. For the first time in centuries, silence. The soldiers erupted in cheers. The desert warriors raised their weapons to the sky. Humanity had done the impossible. But Kale did not cheer. He stood, chest heaving, his body barely holding together. The light within him flickered like a dying flame. He stared down at the titan's corpse, yet something in his eyes remained uneasy, because deep beneath the sands, the ground trembled. The serpent's body twitched. Not all of it was dead. Kale narrowed his eyes. He knew what it meant. This was not the end. He raised his cracked, burning hand, pointing toward the horizon where the dunes shook harder, as if something larger, something older, was beginning to awaken. The soldiers followed his gaze. Fear replaced their victory cries. What is that?" one whispered. Kale's voice was a low growl, filled with both dread and determination. "The true titan is still waiting."